In this video, we're going to go over how to create a walk project and then break it up into packets. I'm going to start here on the new version of the main menu. If you're not already here, go ahead and click the new menu link in the bottom right-hand corner of the page, and that is starting on the main menu. If you're on the old menu, there will be a link to the new one. If you're on the new one like I am, there's going to be a link to the old menu here. Once you get to this page, we're going to go to voter info and targeting. So I'm going to move through targeting pretty quickly here and just select some criteria to create an example project. We do have another video that goes over the targeting process in a bit more detail. So if you haven't seen that yet, you can take a look at it. I will include a link to it elsewhere on this page. The first thing that I'm going to do here is select all of the precincts that I want to include in this project. When you're creating a walk project, we recommend grabbing all of the voters that you want to include in the project and not breaking them up by precinct. Later, when you're making the packets, you can sort by precinct, but when you're first creating the big overall project, you'll just want to include all of the precincts with all of the voters that you might want to hit. Again, here I'm just going to select some quick example criteria. Yours will probably look different than mine. When you get to the last page of targeting, it'll have the number of voters and households that you've selected so far. Make sure that that number looks about like the number that you're hoping to hit on your walks. And then we're going to hit show options next to walk canvassing. Some more options are going to come up over here on the right, and underneath action list options, you're going to click this little bubble, and save into and create new list is going to highlight. So that is going to take all of those voters that we just selected and save them into a new walk project. And then hit run report in the top right. Once that finishes processing, it'll give you a little message here that says how many addresses have been added to the project, and click OK to redirect to the project settings page. So here's where we're going to set the different walk settings for this project as a whole. In the name, you can put any sort of identifier there. Our default is general target. The name can really be anything that you want it to be, but in the description, I do recommend putting just a brief explanation of the criteria that you use to create that project. That way, if you look back on it later, you'll remember what you used. So I used, and that's just going to be a little explanation of my criteria. That way, if somebody else looks at this project later, or I can't remember what voters are in it, there's some sort of little indicator. The auto remove already voted option, what this is going to do is webElect starts getting the vote by mail data for state election dates, so like the primary and the general, 60 days before the election starts. If you have this option turned on, then every morning when we receive that VBM and early voting data, it's going to remove people from this walk project that have already voted in that election. Enabling limited access users. This is going to allow users that have the access walk packet permission to create packets and or walk to the project directly without a packet. If you've already set up your volunteer configuration and are familiar with that process, you can turn it on. If you're not sure whether or not you're using that process, there's not really any harm in having it turned on or off. And there is more information on what limited access users does on a different page here, so I'm not going to go into too much detail on that. And that page will also be linked on the walk mapping overview. The printed walk packet options are going to be relevant for if you wanted to print one of the walk packets that we're about to create. The letter options are what your walkers can mark on that printed packet. The default here that we have is SOUNYS, and that's going to stand for support, opposed, undecided, not home, and yard sign. You can leave those or change them. It mostly depends on what information you're looking to collect on this walk. You can also include more information down here. The script is going to be what will appear for your walkers to pretty much say to the voters. It just gives them a little example of what you want them to say when they go door to door. So here's my example. So right below that is going to be the tags, and this is going to be kind of the answers to whatever questions you're asking. So if you're looking for information on who supports or opposed or has heard of your candidate or wants a yard sign, this is where you're going to update that information. So if you click the little add tag drop down, these are the defaults that we have. So I'm just going to add a couple here. And you can reorder them using these little 3-bar drag options if you'd like. And these are just the different tracking options that will be available to your walkers. Sign request from the app should update which sign list. If you have different sign projects that you've created, you can choose them from the drop down here, but we're going to have that default one in there for you if you have not created extras. All right, in the bottom right hand corner here is where you would be able to delete, remove, or reset the project. And you would do that by typing in any of those actions into the bar down here. After you've finished all your settings, we're going to hit save up here in the top right. And you'll get a little message up here that says the project was updated successfully. All right, so now that we're done with our settings, the walk project has been created. We're going to hit this blue arrow here, and it's going to take us to the walk project administration page. So this is where you'll be able to see all of the walk projects that you've created so far and a brief summary of them. So here you can see the description that I put in, and that there are 2,689 houses that have been added to the project, but nothing else has been done with them. And the little unlock icon here shows that I have that project open to limited access users. If you want to go back and change any of the settings that we just did, you would do that here by hitting settings. Universe will let you see who all is in that walk project. And then map is where we're going to go to view all of those houses on a map and then break them down into packets. So if you wanted to map from the entire target, you could do that by selecting map all. If you wanted to only map certain precincts, you could select them here. I'm going to see them all at one time. So now we have all of those houses on the map in front of us, and you can see that they're kind of showing as fuzzy bubbles with these big numbers inside of them. Those are showing clusters of houses. So for example, like this one has 262 houses in it. Before we break it down, we're going to use the little plus minus icons over here on the right to zoom in. And you're going to want to zoom in far enough that you're seeing the houses as individual pins like this. So I'm going to move the map around so that I can get all of the houses that I want in one packet on the page in front of me. Once you've done that, go up to the top right, and we're going to select this little blue polygon icon, and that's going to turn on the shape tool. Now, the shape tool there's a bit of a learning curve to it. What we're going to do is use the mouse to make individual clicks around the group of houses that we want to add to the packet. So it's not a click and drag it's not a click and drag. It's going to be one singular click, and that'll drop a point. Another click all the way around. And the shape will look a little funny at first. Just keep going around and until you've captured all of those houses. And if you miss one or two like this one, you can click them individually. Up here in the top left, it'll show you how many addresses that you've selected so far. Once you're happy with that number, we're going to hit submit, and that's going to create a packet from all of those houses I just selected. The default name that we use in webElect is going to be a color and a timestamp. If you knew the specific neighborhood or wanted to name that something else, you could. I'm going to leave it as purple. Down here is where you'd be able to assign it to different users. So if you had a user on the system that you wanted to assign this project to, you can click that drop down and assign them. So I assigned that one to myself, so the next time I log into my mobile app, I'll see that listed as one of my packets. And then if you're done with it, we'll hit done, and that will save it within the system. If you hit output, it'll bring up some printing options. So if you wanted to print that packet, you could do that here by getting PDF and then printing it. I'm not actually going to print it, so I'm going to hit close. So now you can see that all of those houses have changed color and they're all purple now, showing that they're part of the purple packet. If you wanted to break all of them down into packets, you could, or you can leave it as is and come back later. So if you wanted to come back later, I'll show you how to get here from the main menu. So if you were starting from the main menu and wanted to go back to see what we'd already done, you would go to Walk and then Project Administration. And then there's our project. You can see the little orange ones where I've added people to a packet. And if we come over here and hit Packets, it's going to show you that purple one that I created and assigned. And that is the basic process of how you create a walk project and break it down into packets. If you have any questions about the process or any of that is unclear, you can always reach us at support@webelect.net or at the support number.